Welcome to Truth and Company Boxing Podcast for another segment of 20 random questions. I'm your host, John the Truth Dioria, and tonight's guest is former WBC Super Welterweight World Champion, the Latin Snake, Sergio Mora. How you doing, Sergio?
Wonderful. How are you doing, John?
I'm doing great. You're not looking too happy.
Oh, I always look like this.
Well, listen, I didn't get a chance to tell you off air, so I'm going to tell you in the beginning of the interview because I kind of was rushing things. I have to say, me personally, I think you're one of the best boxing announcers out there right now. And reason being, for one, you're an ex-boxer, so you know what you're talking about. You've been in there. For two, you don't hold back on anybody. You're not biased in any way. You break down things for people, even the casual fans, so that if they're not a boxing fan or they've just started watching it, they can actually comprehend and understand what you're saying. And you're not afraid to tell the guy that's next to you or whoever it is, if they say something wrong, to tell them that they're wrong and correct them. And I love it because there's a lot of guys that won't correct other guys and they just let it go.
No. I've lost a lot of, well, not lost, but I guess I've been bittered a lot of people by telling the truth. Even sometimes when I'm calling a fight of a fighter that I know that I'm close of, or whatever, and I happen to say something negative about them, all of a sudden I turn into an enemy to them just because I tell them constructive criticism. So it just goes to show you how sensitive and how certain fighters are outside the ring when they can't take constructive criticism from a guy that knows what he's talking about. I mean, like you said, I've already done this, been there, done that, and I've had my share of constructive criticism, and I didn't like it. But I don't go and end relationships because of it. But so what? This is my job. I love doing it, and that's all I'm going to continue doing.
And I totally agree with you. I mean, obviously, you're way more known in this sport than me. But the reason my nickname in boxing is The Truth is for the same reason. It was given to me because I say it the way it is. I was a boxing manager. I was a boxing coach. People sometimes just don't like to hear it. Like you said, they want you to kiss their ass. They don't want you to tell the negative things. And that's how I earned my name, too. So I understand what you're saying is some people – drop relationships with you or whatever reasons, but that's on them. They can't handle it. They can't handle it. So now we just talked off there. You're actually not calling tomorrow night's show, which I'm sad about. I was really hoping to see you on there. But so when are you on the next show?
At the end of the month, I think I'm gonna be on the January 28th show, I believe. I don't know, but I'll be at the end of the month. My next fight is that one, and then at the end of February. But yeah, I'm not doing this Virgil fight, which is a shame. I was looking forward to doing Virgil's fight. I've been doing I would say the last half dozen Virgil Ortiz fights, and I mean he's knockouts. Expect a knockout. So it's always exciting to be doing this show. So this is the first one I'm not gonna be a part of, and it was. I don't know who's doing it, but whoever's doing it is lucky.
All right. And just for the fans, if you aren't aware, there is a DAZN show tomorrow night. So definitely tune in. DAZN's been putting on great shows. So don't miss it. Get your subscription for the year, for the month or whatever. But they're great cards. I got mine. I watch them every month and then many shows that come on there. Plus, there's other shows on there to watch as well. All right. So you ready for these random 20 questions?
Let's do it. Random.
All right.
I didn't prepare. There you go.
Well, that's what's fun about it. The fans love it and the boxers love it because it's not a regular boxing interview. You guys don't get to know the questions ahead of time, and you kind of got to answer on the fly. So
which is kind of how commentating is. It's like walking a tight rope. You don't know the action. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know. You can't prepare for what you're going to see in the first round or in the 8th round and the 9th round. So bring it on.
Yeah, but you're pretty good at that. So I think you'll be pretty good at this. All right. Question 1. How did you get involved in the sport of boxing?
I needed high school credit to graduate. I wasn't going to graduate with my class. And the only way that I was going to do it with outside credit, physical education credit. And my counselor suggested boxing, a PAL program, Police Athletics League.
But just to give a little bit of history before that, you had already been kind of boxing in the streets in the neighborhood and stuff, right?
Oh, yeah. I was doing barbecue boxing. Yeah, barbecue boxing. But, that was kind of like the Little Rascals version of boxing, East LA version, of course. But when I actually got into organized boxing, it was a PAL program, Police Athletics League, and I did that in Montebello, and I just got hooked.
Okay. All right. Question 2. Tell me your boxing Mount Rushmore, your top 4 guys.
Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Robinson, Roberto Duran, and that fourth one, this is just me, Chavez. Julio Cesar Chavez. I know a lot of people will say, Henry Armstrong. They'll go with Joe Louis. That was before my time. Chavez was my time. I got to see the passion. I got to see the glory. I got to see everything he accomplished. So, and he's Mexican. I'm Mexican American. So Chavez.
Okay. Question 3. Do you have any hobbies outside the sport of boxing?
Hobbies outside of boxing. I used to like golf. I've been getting into golf. There you go. There's my recent one. I've been enjoying my golf. It's frustrating, way more difficult than boxing ever was or will be. Golf. That's my hobby. And hobbies are supposed to be likable. Every time I'm on the golf course, I'm always cussing.
So I'm just curious, and you might not even have an answer for this, but over the years, I've noticed a lot of boxers gravitate into golf. Is there a reason for that?
I was golfing in Saudi Arabia with Darren Barker. Also, Tony Bellew was out there. A lot of fighters are getting into it because you know what? It takes a lot of strategy, technique. Every swing has to be perfect technique, and your mind's in a million places, just like in boxing. Ding, that guy's coming at you, throwing punches from everywhere, and your technique has to be right with the swing. The technique has to be right when you're boxing. And then of course strategy of knowing how you're going to play that hole, and it's just intriguing. And you're never going to master it. That's the thing. You're never ever going to master boxing. You're never going to master golf. So maybe that's the thing.
All right, question 4. Now, I personally want to know this, and I'm sure some fans have thought about this as well, because everybody knows your boxing IQ is off the chart, man. I don't care what anybody says, and you can see it when you're commentating. Question 4, would you ever consider being a trainer?
Yeah, I actually trained a few people. You actually learn a lot when you're training. Let me take that back. I actually enjoyed, teaching boxing to people that didn't know how to box. I remember Mickey Rourke, the actor, reached out to me that he wanted me to train him for a movie, and I agreed to do that. I trained, a few, high-end celebrities and high-end people. So I enjoyed it because when I'm teaching them, I'm reminding myself of how to box, and I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't do it the way that I'm teaching him. Why? So sometimes you learn by coaching how to actually do it, as a boxer. It's a weird thing. And I've heard that before, actually, by former fighters, that they learn more about boxing, teaching boxing, than actually boxing getting in the face. It's really intriguing, but I agree with that.
Okay. Well, no, I just think, honestly, you see a lot of these former great boxers, world champions in the corner nowadays that were just phenomenal. And like I said, with your IQ and just the way you talk about boxing and how passionate you are, to see you someday with a pro in a corner, like on DAZN or ESPN or something, I think just would be phenomenal.
Yeah, maybe in the future. Right now, I have. You have to have a passion for it. You have to have a passion for training. Like my trainer, never boxed, amateur or pro, and he was an incredible trainer, incredible eye. He was a strategist. He was my day one, from the amateurs to the professionals, all the way. He trains Sinisa Estrada now. He trains a lot of other fighters, and he just has a knack. He has that it for it. But he never boxed, and that's the thing about being a boxing trainer. Great fighters won't be great trainers. I wasn't a great fighter. I was a good fighter, so maybe I can be a great trainer. But the guys that actually are great trainers weren't that good boxers. They really weren't. I mean, if you look at the Freddie Roach. The only one, I mean, I'm not going to say all of them, but like Buddy McGirt was a 2-division champion. He was a great fighter. But a lot of fighters in the past and trainers, they weren't that great at boxers, and that's why they're great trainers.
Okay. All right. Question 5. What's the craziest or the funniest story that ever happened between you and a boxing fan?
And a boxing fan, I can tell you that one. So I was gonna fight. It was towards the latter part of my career. I was on the undercard of Andre Ward, and we're gonna be fighting here in LA. And I was at the weigh-in, and normally, I don't like shaking people's hands before the weigh-in just for germs, the germ's sake. I learned that from Andre Ward. He fist pumps. So anyway, this was when I was still shaking hands. I shook the hand out of this one guy, and I swear to you, everyone wants to test how strong they are versus a boxer. A tough guy, machismo, and it was this shorter guy, and he gripped my hand so hard that he almost damn near hurt my hand. It was sore the entire time, and I had a fight the next day, and I got so pissed off at him. I cussed him out, and to this day, I still don't shake people's hands because of that anymore. Because they want to test their strength against a professional fighter, and it's ego, machismo, and yeah, I don't
Okay.
like it. I pound
Question 6. What's the best advice you've ever gotten from another boxer, and who was it?
I got a lot of great advice. Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran, those guys. I actually got to pick their brain, but it was more about life. But as far as about boxing, believe it or not, a fighter named Lonnie Beasley. Lonnie Beasley was a sparring partner. He fought, professionally, but he was a sparring partner for Fernando Vargas. And I remember he was telling me, "Don't ever be, don't ever be, don't ever be too good in sparring because they'll fire you." And this is when I was still getting paid, sparring David Reed, sparring Fernando Vargas. I was getting paid really good money sparring, champions. And I remember Lonnie Beasley told me, "Don't ever be too good in sparring because they're gonna fire you." And for instance, I got fired the first day when I sparred Terry Norris because I was trying to be too good, and he was paying over $1,000 a week. I needed that money at the time. I did well. Terry Norris fired me, so I always remember that advice.
And I've actually seen that happen, and I've heard about that happening. So I
Yeah.
agree with you on that.
Uh-huh.
All right, question 7. If you could have a conversation with one person from history, who would it be?
Outside of boxing?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Anybody in history.
I would like to have dinner and drinks with Oscar Wilde. He was an Irish playwright back in the 1800s. He has one of the sharpest wit that you'll ever see on paper.
Okay. All right, question 7. If you could have a conversation with any animal and it could talk back, what animal would you want to talk to?
A chimp. And I want to ask him, do you really turn into a human 100 million years from now? Whatever the case is.
That's a good choice. I never thought about that. All right, question 9. What's the best dish you can cook?
I can get down cooking. Let's see. What can I mean, a seafood pasta. Yeah. I make a mean seafood pasta. Yeah.
Okay, question 10. Who was the hardest puncher you've ever faced in the ring, in a fight, or sparring?
In sparring, it was Mikhail Kessler. He hit me with the right hand. I was out on my feet, and he noticed it, and he even stopped and says, "Are you okay?" In the ring, it was a fighter named Rito Ruvalcaba. He had 31 wins, 29 by knockout. He was a Mexican guy, and he hit me with the right hand. I was out on my feet, but of course, he didn't know that. I ended up stopping him in the 6th, but yeah, it's the guys that you least expect that punch you the hardest, so yeah, he's the one that. And out on the street, I never got hit, and when they did hit me, they didn't know how to hit, so I laid them out.
All right. Question 11. Tell me an interesting story out of your boxing career.
Interesting. Well, I spent a month in Australia, in Sydney, Australia, with Jeff Fennick, and I always knew he was a great fighter, and then I realized he was a great host. He took me around Sydney, and an amazing experience I had in Sydney because of Jeff Fennick. And then I started looking him up, watching his fights, and then I realized why, fighters like Mike Tyson and others, befriended him and kept him, under their wing for a long time because he's just a great person, great individual, and a hell of a host if you're in Sydney.
Okay. Question 12. Who was your favorite opponent to fight out of your career?
My favorite opponent, meaning what I learned from them, or it was a satisfying win, or it was just
Just when you think back of it, but like it was a great fight. He was a good guy.
Peter Manfredo. I fought him 3 times. Once as an amateur in the National Golden Gloves, I beat him, and then I beat him twice as a professional. But every fight was close. Every fight was close. Every fight was good. He just never was able to win or beat me or have the judges on his favor. But great guy, great person. Got to know him well, and we mixed it up 3 different times in 3 exciting fights.
Okay, question 13. If you were fighting in this era right now, on the top of your game, when you were on the top of your game, what boxer in your weight class would you want to fight that's current?
Great question. So it had to be a middleweight. I like to get in there with a Charlo brother, either one, 54 or 60. They're just mean. They do a lot of talking. They promote a fight. I'm more of the quiet guy. I'll go in there with a strategy and then I'll shock you. So Charlo, in this current era.
Okay. Question 14. If the mayor of your city was willing to name something after you, what would you want named after you in the city?
I would say a taco stand, but there's already a Sergio's Tacos out here. So I would probably, I would say a park. A park. My kids love going to the park. I would love to see a park named after Sergio Mora, the Sergio Mora Park.
Okay. Question 15. If you could win a trophy or an award in something other than boxing, what would it be?
Writing. Writing. I would love to get something where I can put my thoughts on paper and get an award for it, and then shove it in Chris Mannix's face and say, "This is writing. This is what people want."
Speaking of that, there is no book out on you yet, right? You haven't written a book yet, right?
Man, if I lay the truth out there, people won't like me very much. More than they already don't.
Yeah, but I think your life all the way back, everything you've gone through to where you are now, I think that would be an incredible story.
No, and believe me, I've had a hell of a journey. But like I said, laying the truth out on paper sometimes isn't the best thing. That's why Mark Twain wrote his autobiography and didn't want to print it until 100 years after his death. So maybe that way I'll do it.
Okay. All right. Question 16. Tell me a professional boxer now that you think someday will be a great trainer.
You have to be a verbal guy, a guy that doesn't get hit much, because if Shakur Stevenson. I think Shakur Stevenson is a brilliant boxer. I haven't had the chance to meet him much. No, you know what? I haven't had a chance to talk to him, so let me take that back. I'm going to go Teofimo Lopez. I got a chance to talk to him. I think he's an amazing talent, incredible fighter, and he knows how to talk. So Teofimo Lopez, I think, will be a hell of a trainer one day.
Okay, question 17. If you could do the voice of an animated animal character, what animal would you choose to be the voice of?
Snake.
I knew when I wrote the question you were going to say that, but I thought I'd ask anyway.
Come here. Let me introduce you to something you might like. I don't know.
All right, question 18. If you had to go on a cross-country road trip and you had to choose one comedian and one athlete to go with you, who would you choose?
Well, he's not a comedian, but he makes me makes me laugh harder than Todd Grisham. But actually, he was a comedian. Yeah, he told me a story of when he did stand up on a cruise ship once and he bombed. So yeah, Todd Grisham. He'll be Todd Grisham. And as far as an athlete, it won't be a boxer. It'll probably be like a football player. Lawrence Taylor. There you go. Lawrence Taylor. I'm sure he has some incredible stories.
Okay. Question 19. So how did you celebrate when you won the world title?
I was in Connecticut, so everything ended early. I was in Uncasville, Connecticut, and everything closed. I think they stopped selling alcohol over there like at 10 p.m. or something like that. The rules are different. So I didn't get to really celebrate when I won the world title. I celebrated afterwards. I think I did an appearance somewhere in LA or Las Vegas. But yeah, Uncasville wasn't really a city for us to celebrate a world championship.
Okay. And last question 20. Have you ever had to save someone's life?
That's an incredible. Physically, no, but I think I've probably been in the right place at the right time for certain people when they're actually struggling. I don't know if it's saving their life, but definitely intervene. So yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
All right. Well, listen, I appreciate you taking time to come on and do the random 20 questions. If you got anything to say to the fans or you want to promote anything, go ahead.
No, I just hope that they stay tuned for a great year of boxing on DAZN and boxing period in 2024. There's a lot of great matchups that are going to be made, and I love doing what I do, and hopefully they enjoy listening to what I love doing. So yeah.
All right. And hold on. And the truth has spoken.